Welcome to the Paul Chandler Show, everyone. I'm your host, Paul Chandler. In tonight's episode, we're going to be using the Padzilla, and we're going to see on a computer animation video on how a lumbar fusion is being performed. So a fusion, that's when you take two bones and fuse them together, or stick them together part as one. So we'll be looking at the Padzilla design of a L5 and S1. That's the fifth lumbar down and the first sacrum, as those two getting fused together. So stay tuned and we'll be right back using the Padzilla, and we'll be watching an animated video to see how the spinal lumbar transfusion is done. And while it's being performed, I'll be explaining it, so that way as coders and auditors, we can be able to put two pieces together and see what the doctor's doing. So stay tuned, we'll be right back, and tonight we'll be looking at a lumbar fusion being performed. Welcome back, everyone. So tonight's episode, we're using the Padzilla again, and we'll be looking at a lumbar fusion being a spinal fusion. Fuck. Welcome back, everyone. So in tonight's episode of the show, we're using the Padzilla again, and we'll be seeing a spinal fusion being performed between the L5 and the S1. So that's the fifth lumbar vertebrae down and the first sacrum vertebrae. So again, don't worry, it's a computer animated video. So in this case, when the patient's having a spinal fusion, they'll be placed prone on the table, so that way they'll be face down and the back is exposed. And then here we see the doctor with no hands apparently, taking the scalpel and making two incisions into the back, the lower part of the spine, and putting two spacers in. First, they'll do one spacer at a time. They put the spacers, that way then they can see the bones and have access to the different vertebrae in there. And what the doctor will do, in this case, they'll take the tool and they need to go through and dissect and remove part of the bone. So then they're shaving and scraping it all away. And then so we have both left and the right vertebrae. The bone parts are exposed, but that yellow part there is the nerve. So what the doctor has to do then, yes, it does look like a kitchen spatula, but they'll just scooch over the nerve, and then the vertebral disc space in the middle kind of looks like a teaspoon. A lot of the stuff apparently you can do in your kitchen. Takes a little long teaspoon with a handle and scrapes out and removes the disc space in the middle. And then the doctor will take a filer and then file both sides of the bone from where the disc space was, because we need to place, at this point now, the doctor is placing the bone graft in. So that way then the two vertebrae aren't compressing against one another. Doctor removes a nice little kitchen spatula, put the nerve back where it is. And then now at this point though, the doctor will take two screws, and the screws have to go down because we have to do the actual fusion process there. So the two screws will go down and they're placed in. And notice though too, as far as where the placement is, so this is the L5, the one that got cut open. So it's on the superior and inferior. So in this case, the patient's laying down, superior is on the left side, inferior is on the right side. And this hook-like claw thingy, hinge-my-bobby, how that goes in, and it, kind of like a little Cirque du Soleil kind of bouncing out there, goes way back under, places the screw in at that point. So now then we have the two screws in place, and we have a little connector there. But then now we have the rod between the two screws, and then going in, so this is how it looked like. We have the two screws, and then that way then those are pressed down into place. Just like, for example, if you ever try to hook up a frame or a large poster on the side of a wall, it needs to be secured in place so that way it won't fall off the wall. Same place here too, how they need to get the screws placed in so they're secure on both sides. And this is what it looked like on X-ray afterwards, where we have the two screws that were placed on each side, the L5 and the S1, and then the rod going in there between to support them both. And then of course we have on this left side how the computer animated to look. So with the animation format of it, seeing only how one side of the bone, of the vertebrae bone, had to be removed. and then we have the 2 screws with the rod going in it, and then that way then now the L5 and S1 are fused together. So even though technically they still are 2 different bone pieces, but with those screws in there, they're unable to, as far as bend the back, between the L5 and S1. So when we say the phrase spinal fusion, they're not being glued together, for example. They're just being secured by a bone graft in the middle and screws on the left side and right side, but then the rod, skinny rod going through the superior, the one up above screw, and the inferior, the one on the bottom screw. So on the left side, we have a little bit less nauseous computer animated video of it, and then on the right side, what the patient would look like under x-ray, showing the work after it's done. So that explains how a patient has a spinal fusion done together, again between the L5 and the S1, so the L5 and S1. And before we go, remember that we do have the Specialty Coder Institute, did launch at the beginning of this month, where we have new credentialing organization for specialty credentials that are up raising the quality of them, where all the exams are fill in the blank, just like how real world coding is, unlike other credentialing organizations where they have multiple choice exams, where quite frankly, if you know how to work a Scantron, you can pass the credential without needing to know all the material that you need to know to be able to do the job. So at the Specialty Coder Institute, all of the exams are all fill in the blank, and passing is at 90%. So for more information on those, especially credentials, if you're looking to further or even intro your career, visit specialtycoder.com. And I'm Paul Chandler with the Paul Chandler Show. Thank you for watching and have an awesome rest of your night.